Now, recently I've been receiving a couple of calls from different people, receiving messages from, my different social media platforms, asking me why did I decide to choose to go with rabbit farming, among many other things that I'll be, of course, answering in this particular video. Now, in this video, I want to discuss with you some of the reasons as to why you too should opt to start a rabbit farm today and not tomorrow. I mean, like, you should have actually started it like yesterday because of these reasons that I'm going to be mentioning today. But if you're new to our YouTube channel, please do subscribe. Don't forget to follow me on my different social media platforms at Dense Duke UG. That is Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and where else? Snapchat, TikTok, everywhere at Dense Duke UG. I'm glad you're still watching this particular channel. Now let's go straight into the video. When we compare rabbit farming to all other ventures, you realize that rabbit farming requires limited capital as opposed to chickens, as opposed to piggery, as opposed to growing crops or any other business venture. At least I did research on this, so I'm speaking from an informed side of view. Rabbit farming requires just limited capital. In fact, even the biggest capital in rabbit farming goes into the housing. The rest of the things are very cheap. In buying the breeds is very cheap. Buying the feeds is very cheap. Imagine a kilogram of pellets being at roughly 1,700 shillings, Uganda shillings. That's really small compared to the other animal feeds that are on the market. So you realize that when you venture into, when you want to venture or start a rabbit farm, your initial capital will be small as opposed to chickens. When I did a survey when we wanted to start chicken a couple of months back, we realized that we needed to spend roughly about $15,000 US. In fact, that was just the minimum, but the maximum was about $20,000 US. Now, $20,000 US, that was a lot of money for us. We couldn't afford. But also, even if we did afford, we wanted to find something that would give us more returns quickly. And so we thought of rabbit farming, and boom. That's why we have the Duke's Farm doing rabbit farming. We do not say that we're not going to get engaged in other things. We are, but because of the small cost incurred or that is involved in rabbit or starting up a rabbit farm, that's why we opted for rabbit farming first. Another reason as to why you need to start a rabbit farm like yesterday is because of the small reproductive cycle of rabbit farming. When you look at rabbit farming, it takes, or rabbits take roughly around 30 days to produce. And then for those of us who are doing business, you have to wait only for 2 weeks before you take it back to the male. And so within a year, you realize that you're getting offsprings almost every month. If you at all you have a couple of does on the farm, there is not going to be a month where you're just going to go without actually having kids. So one of the reasons is because rabbit farming helps you to grow very fast in terms of numbers. The multiplication for rabbit is really way high. In a year, where rabbit, for example, if you're doing on a commercial basis, it gives birth roughly like 6 or 7 times. Now, imagine if each time a rabbit gave you roughly around 5 kids. Yes, 5 kids. If we did a simple calculation here, 5 kids times maybe 7, that's roughly about 35 babies in a year. Now, we are just saying 5 kids, but remember, there are rabbits that even give birth to 10, 12 kids, depending on how best you manage them on the farm. So we just took a rough figure of 35 of these every single year. Now, imagine you just have 100 does. If you multiply 35 times 100 does, you'll get 3,500 rabbits in a year. Imagine if each of these, you just sold it at 50,000 Uganda shillings, you realize that you have 170 million Uganda shillings. If you compute that into dollars, you will be roughly working with 50,000 US dollars as your sales for that particular year. Just that. I'm just giving you an example. Don't get too excited, but don't get too demoralized. I hope this number is not so small for somebody out there who wants to start, rabbit farming. So, because of its multiplications, ability, everybody should actually start rearing rabbits. Let's talk about something very interesting right here. Over the years, the demand for rabbit meat has gone high, and this is attributed, of course, to one or two reasons. One being that rabbit meat is rich in proteins, and also another reason is because rabbit meat is low in fats. Now, as we try to work on our diets, many doctors are recommending that we eat a lot of rabbit meat as opposed to other kinds of meat on the market, because those other kinds of meat have a lot of fats in them, and therefore they do have an effect on our bodies. Now, as the demand for rabbit meat because of its immense benefits goes high, it means that the market for rabbit meat is actually increasing day and night. And this demand for rabbit meat is something that we cannot satisfy. For example, in my country, it requires roughly around 1 ton of rabbit meat that is needed daily. But you realize that we cannot even supply that market or that demand, because there are few farmers engaged in rabbit farming. And therefore, this should actually be a motivation, because for us, when we did our research and we realized that yes, rabbit meat is on high demand, we said yes, because a kilo of rabbit meat is actually roughly between 15 to 20, and some people even sell it at 25. So depending on how you're valuing your rabbit meat, you can sell it at whatever price you want, but that is the kind of prices that are on the market. So due to that, you need to start rabbit farming as yesterday. Now, another thing that I didn't talk about, even when I talked about the number of kids that a rabbit does and the small or little duration period or gestation period of a rabbit, I forgot to say that rabbits mature faster than most of the animals, because at just 4 months, yes, 4 months, a rabbit is able to actually conceive and give birth to kids. As much as, of course, they say 4 months, I usually recommend people to wait until 5 months, when this rabbit is actually very, very, very strong enough to be able to take care of the kids, but also to be able to give you a reasonable number of kids. I mean, who would want to receive 1 kid? Usually when a rabbit is starting, its first pregnancy is not as, its second or third or fourth. Usually it can give birth to 1 or 2, but that is because sometimes farmers take the rabbits so fast, like at 4 months, boom, they already want to be, getting profits out of it. So I usually recommend that you wait until 5 months. But even at 4 months, the rabbit is actually very, very much ready to start giving you kids. And that, compared to chickens that take roughly about 5 or 6 months before you see an egg, I think rabbit farming is the way to go. Besides, at 6 months, that chicken you've reared to give you eggs cannot even cost 30,000. It's roughly 15 or 20. But a rabbit of 4 months, I can even sell it at 80,000 shillings. So when you compare, literally, you would really see that this one is more profitable and this one is not. I just gave you an example. Don't say I don't like chickens, because I'm also going to do chickens, and be prepared to receive some of the content that I'll be giving you on this particular channel. Now, because rabbits are small in size, rabbits require really limited space. Like, of all the ventures that I looked around, chickens require a big space so that they can, move around. Goats require really a big chunk of land. Pigs do the same, require a lot of, space. But for rabbits, even a small compound, you can still rear your rabbits. And because of the smallness in size, it also guarantees that within that small space, you're going to have as many rabbits as you can. Also, in terms of maintaining the hygiene, rabbits are well, because When you do the modern kind of structure where you are able to collect the urine from a given point and the drippings at a certain point, it is easy to manage because every day you just wake up, you clean your hatchery or cages, and you collect that. You perhaps put it either in the garden or you dispose it off depending on where you are located. So venturing into rabbits, it requires little space, and for me, because my land is small, 2 acres is really small for me. Because I needed 10 acres, I said rabbitry is the way to go. We just utilized roughly around a 50 by 25 feet kind of structure where we are doing our rabbitry. And guess what? That's one of the reasons as to why we decided to do rabbitry. Another thing, rabbits are easy to transport and market and of course maintain. If you are engaged in broiler chickens, after 1 month, if you've not sold them off, you will start complaining because they will be feeding into your pockets now, yet they should have given you money. Now for my rabbit, I can have it as long as I want. I mean, because it eats little food and because of its profitability, it makes sense for me. And the more I keep this rabbit, the more it adds on the kilo, the more it gets better. If it's a female rabbit, the more it gives me more kids. If it's a male rabbit, the more it gives me kids as well. And therefore for me, I won't be making any losses at all as somebody who is doing maybe piggery or maybe doing goats that need to sell off this particular item. And as you know, the more you invest in when something is not adding up, it is not giving you, it's not business, doesn't make any business sense. So you'd want to venture into something like rabbit farming or rabbits because they are profitable in the long run. Well, for these reasons, I hope that I've been able to explain some of you. Now, there are reasons, for example, rabbits do not compete with food with humans, and that's something that I have always told people, that as food security or our food is threatened by the fact that we share it with animals, we then need now to rear animals that do not compete for food with human beings. Another is rabbits are very, very, very wonderful animals because they have an efficient feeding conversion ratio. For example, if you gave a rabbit feeds now, by tomorrow they will have already converted that into proteins. Like, their conversion rate is very, very fast, and as such, they are good protein animals. So for today, that's all I had for you. It's a goodbye from both me and my lovely wife, who is not around today. Hopefully you'll see her any other day. Until then, it's a goodbye. Please follow me on different social media platforms at Dennis UG.